5 lies liberals say about Social Security. It's ridiculous, and I just why do you have to lie? I actually like Social Security. I've come 180 degrees from where I was before. Not that long ago, but I used to be a free trader, not anymore. I used to be a complete libertarian, not anymore. Now I recognize we have a need for Social Security for a forced retirement plan. 100%. I used to think we couldn't legislate morality, not anymore. You can. And as such, I'm a different guy than I was 10 years ago, and I've come to appreciate Social Security for what it is. Absolutely. It's a forced retirement plan to make sure you have some level of income when you retire. And to be honest, make sure you have some level of income if you die before, so your family has a benefit, your children, your spouse, and all that. I'm a big fan, long time, first time. And I think because Social Security benefits, and particularly a select group of people, most, which we'll talk about here, that we should increase it to benefit that select group of people most who happen to vote for the right-wing candidates, all right? Just throwing it out there. So here's some of the Center for Budget, what the hell is it called? Center for Budget and Policy Priorities, big liberal firm out there in D.C. And I don't know, I wonder if they get money from the taxpayer. I guarantee they do. And they should. If you're going to lie with the taxpayer dollars, you should be taken away off the tax rolls. We shouldn't pay you any money. If you're going to lie with our money, we should not pay you. Anyway, so they're lying here, and I'm going to show you how right here. Policy fact basics, top 10 facts about Social Security. All right, so we're gonna skip over companies because companies are right. They have a link in the show notes. We're gonna go to number one right here. Social Security benefits are modest, says these guys. All right. Of course, modest is subjective, not objective. But they're using an objective measure of Social Security, which is a complete lie, dude. I mean, this is insane. It's actually not a lie. This right here is not a lie. There is a lie in here, but this is I would say it's not a lie, but it's very misleading. Let's put it that way. U.S. Social Security benefits are lower than in many other peer nations. That is absolutely a lie if we actually look at it in dollars paid. Social Security benefits for average worker as a percent of earnings. So Social Security benefits are lower than many other peer nations. That's absolutely a lie. As a percent of earnings is correct, but I'm going to show you some here. Here's the U.S. way down here. All right, and here's everyone's favorite country. I'm moving to Canada. Where the Rosie O'Donnell moved, supposedly to Ireland. I guarantee she didn't move to Ireland, but anyway, supposedly that slovenly lady did. Here's UK right here. And the reason this jumped out at me, because I know for a fact that the Social Security benefit we get in the United States is much larger than they get in the UK. Because I've had many clients through the UK and Ireland, and their benefits are way lower than us. So I said, oh, that's interesting. I do this for a fact. So I start, I see. Social Security benefits as the average worker as a percentage of earnings. So let's take a look at Grok, shall we? Let's look at old Grok here. And we're going to say, Grok, we're going to look at Greece, because Greece has the highest right here. Greece has the highest. So we should be more like Greece, right? So let's take a look at what Grok says about Greece here. We're going to come to Grok. We're going to say, okay, Grok, let me just pause this real quick. Median earnings in the U.S. is $67,000. Median earnings in Greece is $15,000 if we inflate them for purchasing power, or not purchasing power, we inflate them using U.S. dollars, all right, not the euro. So we have, what's that, a 4 to 5 to 1 differential in median earnings. All right, I mean, that's just a fact. So when you factor in, again, we're using the same dollar, all right? What does Greece have? Greece replaces about 75%, it looks like. Yeah, about 75% of $15,000. U.S. replaces, what's that? About 40% of what? The median of $65,000, whatever that is. And they even show it right here. They show it right here. Here's the low replacing right here. Here we go right here. That's the median. And they're using a medium. I'm using a median because the median employment is right there. So we replace the median benefits. We replace about 40% of the median benefits. All right. And so 40% of 60,000, let's take a look at what in terms of actual dollars. So 60 times 0.4, 24,000. Yeah, it's 2,000 a month. What's Greece's, let's see, again, they got 15,000, they're replacing 75%. All right, so 15 times 0.75, That's $11,000. We replace almost twice, or more than twice, what Greece does in terms of actual dollars. Would you rather be in Greece with 75% of freaking $15,000, or would you rather be in the U.S. with 40% of $65,000? It's just a lie, dude. And it freaking drives me crazy. I mean, again, you could, well, it's not real. All right, well, okay, whatever, dude. And then this cost of living in Greece relative to the United States is much lower. But again, if we're using this in terms of comparing the same dollar amount, the U.S. dwarfs Greece. And I just know this for a fact, because we dwarf England too, by the way, UK. All right, let's keep going. Social Security lifts 1.4 million children above the poverty line. And again, it's just a lie. And they even say it right. This is what freaking ticks me off right here. Check this out. Right here. This is from figures from the federal government's supplemental poverty measure and do not correct for underreporting of benefits. Do not correct for underreporting of benefits, first and foremost. Numbers include benefits paid to children and their family members for all these, I can't remember this, supplementary security income, housing assistance, I can't remember what TAMP stands for, temporary assistance for needy families, whatnot. So if you actually go down here, right here, the figures in the chart use a comprehensive supplemental poverty measures to show the full effect of non-cash benefits. By the more conventional cash-only official poverty measure, Social Security lifted 900,000 children above the poverty line. But they're using this in conjunction with all these other non-cash benefits. It's insane. So, I mean, they're literally over by 50, about 50%. They're saying Social Security keeps people out of poverty by 50% more than the reality. If you're just using the cash benefits, which is all Social Security is, cash benefits, it's money. It's literally money. It's not assistance for needy families. It's not it's not housing assistance. Supplemental security income isn't Social Security. I mean, supplemental security is for poor people for sure. It's not SNAP. It's not EITC. It's just cash money. Right here. They just blatantly lie. Social Security lists millions of older adults out of the poverty line. Nearly 4 in 10 adults aged 65 and older would have incomes below the official poverty line if they weren't on Social Security. But then they even go down here and say, this is insane. An important study on retirement income from the Census Bureau that Social Security uses, by the way, shows, in fact, that 3 in 10 adults would have been poor without Social Security. So, I mean, that's a 33% increase that they're attributing for bad numbers that Social Security lives above poverty line. It's just a lie. They even say it right here. They say Social Security lives 4 10 out of people, but then they use with real data that's actually been adjusted for the Census Current Population Study that Social Security screws up, where they say 3 in 10. 3 in 10 right here with the real data, and they're still claiming 4 in 10. And they know it's fake. It's crazy to me. Right? Another one. It's just, I don't know how you can write this and it's insane. Social Security is the biggest source of income for most retirees. I just asked my wife, what does most retirees mean? Well, it means more than half, right? Yeah, of course that means more than half. Most. Well, check this out. Social Security's largest source of income for most beneficiaries. For 4 in 10 retirees, it provided at least 50% of their income. What? 4 in 10. That's not most. That's less than half. That's less than most. I mean, there's literally the next sentence. They say fact number 7. Social Security is the biggest source of income for most retirement income for most retirees. And they say Social Security for 4 in 10, Social Security provided at least 50% of income for most retirees. But it's just not true. 4 in 10 is not the equivalent of most. Oh my goodness. And the reason is because they use those fake numbers in the past. We had fake numbers in the past that were using the current population survey, which I even recognized back in 2012 because I did they have a survey. And I said, I'm going to take this survey. I'm just curious to see it. I said, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. Maybe the numbers we're using are wrong in the current population survey. And lo and behold, in 2017, Joshua Mitchell and someone named B, I forgot his or her name, they identified that and they said, Social Security, we got to stop using this information because it's wrong. And Social Security stopped using this information. We're going on almost 10 years now, but this liberal group still does. It's freaking, screw you guys. It pisses me off. You shouldn't be lying. Social Security is particularly important for people of color. First of all, including Black and Latino workers, with highlights or capitals of Black and Latino, who face higher poverty rates. Let's see. Hold on a second. I want to show you right here. The poverty rate among Black and Latino, capitalized, is about twice as high as white adults. Whites, I guess, we don't deserve to be capitalized, because whites are just, who cares? Who cares? There is a significant racial retirement wealth gap, leading older people of color to face more retirement insecurity than their white counterparts. Okay, so I asked Grok. I said, Grok, how many people age 65 and older are in poverty, black versus white? Let's take a look what old Grok says here. And Grok says, right now, let's see. As of March 2025, approximately 5.18 million non-Hispanic whites are in poverty compared to less than 1 million blacks in poverty. That's more than 5 to 1 differential there. All right, so for every black that's over 65 in poverty, there is 5 whites over 65 in poverty. And yet, they're going to say right here, Social Security is particularly important for people of color. Actually, isn't particularly important for whites. Now, you could say the rates are higher for blacks, and they are, 100%. Right now, 11.8% for blacks, and even Grok capitalizes whites. So whites apparently we're more important in Grok than we are for a Senator. These leftists drive me up the wall. It's 6.5% for whites. It's 12% for blacks. So less than 2 to 1 from a percentage point who are in poverty are blacks versus whites, but yet 5 to 1 in terms of numbers. There are more 5 whites in poverty who are over 65 than blacks. 5 to 1 ratio there for whites over blacks, whereas only 2 to 1 in terms of percentages. See how you can manipulate this to make it seem like blacks are being affected by Social Security more than whites. Anyway, by the way, given that whites vote overwhelmingly for Trump, and whites without a college degree are overwhelmingly for Trump, that's our voting population. And guess who wins elections? It's not percentages, it's numbers of votes. All right, Republicans, you sit there and say, we got 5 to 1 whites in poverty over the 65 than blacks. That 5 dwarfs the number of votes for blacks for 1. Go to where the votes are, says Richard Nixon in his Southern Strategy in 1972. And the votes are for poor and middle-class whites. That's where you go. That's why you change Social Security and you increase it to appeal to your base. I don't get it. It's crazy. Anyways, keep going. I think that's it. Is that it here? Older people of color face higher poverty rates, but older people of color face higher poverty. Older whites of color by far face higher poverty. I'm not going to argue Social Security is especially beneficial for women. That's correct. Because men die earlier and they leave Social Security benefits to their spouses because men do the labor. We do the risky jobs. We take the risks. We do the work. And a lot of women do good jobs, for sure, but they don't do the same risk-taking jobs that men do, and as such, they don't get paid as much. It's just as simple. So men are actually been discriminated against for Social Security because we die too soon. That's just a fact. I'm not going to argue this in this case because they're saying, Social Security benefits, older women make up an increasing share of beneficiaries. Yeah, because we're being discriminated against because men die earlier. That's just a fact. But, liberals always got to look at everything in racial and gender gap stuff, and it's stupid. But anyway, remember, you go to where the votes are. The votes are the whites if you're Republican. You know what I'm saying? You're never going to get single black women. You're never going to get them. And, you go after single white women, that's fine. But you go after white women in particularly who are married, that's your voting base Republicans. And as such, you take what the Center for Budget and Priority says and you just reverse it. And you say, okay, how do we make this so we can get more votes? All right, and then you just go after men as a whole. All right, you go after freaking whites, and then you go after men as a whole, which includes blacks, Spanish people, and Asians, and brown people or whatever, Indians, I guess. And you say, okay, we're gonna go after men. So you say, okay, we're gonna go after married people, lower middle class, lower middle class, and poor whites, and we're gonna go after men. That's what you do, dude. And then you'll have you'll fundamentally change this country to the benefit of the United States and the world. All right. God bless. Love your thoughts. Smash that like button. We'll see you.